She had only $3 left. And by tomorrow, she would be homeless. So she stepped forward. And sang like her life depended on it. Not knowing, a Korean billionaire was watching her. The rain came quietly. The kind that doesn't warn you. The kind that soaks through everything. Your jacket, your shoes, even your dignity. Before you realize it's serious. Amara Jackson realized it 38 minutes ago. When the first drop touched the back of her neck. She looked up at the dull, gray sky. Then at the small speaker by her feet. Then at the coins lying inside her open guitar case. $4.20. No, $3 and some change. Not enough. Not enough to pay rent. Not enough to fix the gas bill. Not enough to survive tomorrow. She should have packed up. Anyone else would have.
No, you can't mean that.
But she didn't move. Not because she was stubborn.
This isn't real. Tell me this
Her
isn't
older
real.
sister back in Atlanta would have called it that. But because she didn't have a choice. She had only 3 hours left on her street permit. And the district officer had already warned her twice. Pack up early again, and she wouldn't be allowed back. And that would be the end. Her mother had called that morning. Her voice heavy, urgent, tired. Bills were piling up again. Problems that had already been fixed too many times before. So Amara stayed. And she sang. Not a popular song. Not something the crowd would recognize.
No,
but
you
something
can't
real.
mean that.
A song she wrote at 2 a.m.
This isn't real. Tell
6
me this
weeks
isn't
ago.
real.
When sleep refused to come. Because the silence in her tiny apartment was louder than anything she had ever heard in her 24 years of living. Have you ever done something? And it turned out to be exactly what you were meant to do? Stay with me, because this story is about to show you what happens when the right person hears you. At the exact moment you're about to give up. The rain had been falling for 40 minutes now. Not loud, not dramatic. Just steady, cold, unforgiving. It was a song about being in a place that was beautiful and completely indifferent to you at the same time. About standing in a city of 10 million people and feeling like the sound you made dissolved before it reached anyone. It was, objectively, not a commercial choice for a street corner in the rain. She sang it anyway. Her voice did not ask the rain for permission. It did not ask the hurrying umbrellas or the suited men with their eyes on their phones or the couples pressed together under awnings waiting for the weather to change its mind. Her voice simply went up, clear and warm and completely itself, and did what it had always done since she was 6 years old, singing in her grandmother's church in Atlanta, which was fill whatever space it entered so completely that the space had no choice but to reorganize itself around the sound. 3 people slowed down. One stopped entirely. A woman with a department store bag who stood for 45 seconds with an expression Amara recognized, the expression of someone who had just heard something they were not expecting and needed a moment to locate themselves again. Then the woman placed a bill in the guitar case and walked on without making eye contact, the way people did when something had moved them and they were not ready to acknowledge how much. Amara did not break the song to say thank you. She nodded once, kept her eyes forward, kept singing. This was the thing about her voice that she had learned over 24 years, it was not a performance. It was not something she constructed and presented. It was simply what happened when she stopped managing herself, which was the only time it worked properly, and which was also, she had come to understand, the reason she had never quite fit inside the systems designed to contain and distribute talent. Record label showcases wanted performance. Industry showcases wanted product. What Amara had was something that could not be packaged without losing the essential quality that made it what it was, the specific aliveness of a voice that was not trying to be anything other than exactly what it was. This was the reason she was on a street corner in the rain in Seoul with $3.20 instead of in a recording studio in Atlanta with a contract. She had turned down the contract. Not because it was a bad contract, though it had been a bad contract, the kind that took 80% of everything and left the artist with ownership of nothing and the specific freedom of someone who had been very thoroughly bought. She had turned it down because the A&R man had said, in a meeting that had lasted 40 minutes, that her sound needed to be, he had paused here, searching for the word that would land without causing a problem, and had settled on, adjusted. Made more accessible. Rounded at the edges. Amara had looked at him across the conference table and had said, with the specific politeness of a woman who had been raised correctly and was choosing to remain so under pressure, that she appreciated the meeting and would be in touch. She had not been in touch. 6 months later, her mother's hospital bills had arrived. The specific kind that accumulated quietly for years and then presented themselves all at once with the energy of something that had been patient long enough. Amara had liquidated what she had, which was not much, and had looked at her options, which were fewer, and had made the calculation that a new city was sometimes easier than an old one when the old one had too many rooms that smelled like defeat. Seoul had seemed impossible. She had been here 3 months. Her Korean was functional. She had spent 4 months learning it before she arrived, not to fluency but to navigation, enough to read signs and manage transactions and apologize correctly when she stepped on someone's foot on the subway. She had her busking permit, her small apartment, her speaker, her guitar, and the specific clarity of someone who had removed all the comfortable options and was left with only the true one. Sing. Keep singing. The right person would hear it or they would not, but stopping was not an answer she was willing to give. She was in the 3rd verse when she felt it. Not heard. Felt. The specific quality of attention that was different from the casual slowing down of passers-by. Not the woman with the department store bag, not the 3 people who had paused and moved on. Something steadier. Something that had been there for longer than she had registered and had a different quality from the ambient attention of a public space, more focused, more still, the specific attention of someone who had stopped not because something caught them in passing but because they had decided to stop. She did not look immediately. She finished the verse. Started the bridge. Let the bridge go where it went, which was somewhere that required everything she had because the bridge was the part she had written last and it was the part that was most true and most exposed and most likely to dissolve if she did not give it the full weight of her attention. Then the song ended. And she looked. He was standing 15 feet away under the edge of an awning that had not quite kept the rain off his left shoulder, which was visibly damp in a way that suggested he had been standing there long enough for the weather to find the gap in his coverage and he had not moved to fix it. He was Korean, perhaps mid-30s, in a dark suit that was not the kind of suit that people wore, it was the kind that wore the person, the kind that represented a specific category of resources that Amara could recognize without being able to name the label. He was not on his phone. She had her busking permit, her small apartment, her speaker, her guitar, and the specific clarity of someone who had removed all the comfortable options and was left with only the true one. Sing. Keep singing. The right person would hear it or they would not, but stopping was not an answer she was willing to give. She was in the 3rd verse when she felt it. Not heard. Felt. The specific quality of attention that was different from the casual slowing down of passers-by. Not the woman with the department store bag, not the 3 people who had paused and moved on. Something steadier. Something that had been there for longer than she had registered and had a different quality from the ambient attention of a public space, more focused, more still, the specific attention of someone who had stopped not because something caught them in passing but because they had decided to stop. She did not look immediately. She finished the verse. Started the bridge. Let the bridge go where it went, which was somewhere that required everything she had because the bridge was the part she had written last and it was the part that was most true and most exposed and most likely to dissolve if she did not give it the full weight of her attention. Then the song ended. And she looked. He was standing 15 feet away under the edge of an awning that had not quite kept the rain off his left shoulder, which was visibly damp in a way that suggested he had been standing there long enough for the weather to find the gap in his coverage and he had not moved to fix it. He was Korean, perhaps mid-30s, in a dark suit that was not the kind of suit that people wore, it was the kind that wore the person, the kind that represented a specific category of resources that Amara could recognize without being able to name the label. He was not on his phone. He was not looking around. He was looking at her with the complete undivided attention of someone who had not looked at anything this directly in a very long time and was not certain what to do with the fact that he was doing it now. She held his gaze for 3 seconds. Then she said, "Either drop something in the case or move along. You are blocking the view from the street." The man beside him, younger, with the specific alert posture of someone whose job was to be aware of everything, made a sound that might have been a suppressed laugh and turned it immediately into a cough. The man in the suit did not move. Did not reach for his wallet. Did not look away. "How long have you been in Seoul?" he said. His English was precise, accent present but not heavy, the English of someone who had learned it seriously and used it regularly. "Long enough to know that standing in front of a busker without paying is considered rude in every city in the world," she said. This time the younger man did not bother suppressing it. The man in the suit looked at her for one more second. Then he reached into his jacket, produced a card, and placed it in the guitar case beside the coins. "Not money. A card. Tomorrow," he said. 10 o'clock. And then he walked away, his assistant falling into step beside him, the rain continuing its complete indifference to all of it. Amara looked at the card in her guitar case. Shin Entertainment Group. And below it, in smaller text, Shin Jae-ho. Chairman. She picked it up. Turned it over. Blank on the back. She looked up at the space where he had been standing, the awning, the wet pavement, the city continuing exactly as it had before. Then she looked at the card again. She said, to no one in particular. She put the card in her jacket pocket, picked up her guitar, and began packing up for the night. The rain had not stopped. She had 11,001 in the guitar case now, which was approximately $8.50. Which was not enough for the gas bill but was enough for dinner and the subway home. As she folded her speaker into its bag, she thought about the way he had stood in the rain without moving to fix his wet shoulder. Not performing. Not posturing. Just standing there, getting rained on, listening. She had written a song about being somewhere beautiful and indifferent. She was not certain, walking to the subway with $8.50 and a business card in her pocket, that the city was as indifferent as she had thought. His assistant's name was Park Youngjun and he had worked for Shin Jae-ho for 7 years, which meant he had watched his employer sign and develop 42 artists, restructure the company twice, lose his father, build a concert venue in Busan entirely because a junior artist had mentioned offhand that Seoul was the only city that mattered and Jae-ho had found this philosophically unacceptable. He had never seen Jae-ho stand in the rain for 11 minutes to listen to a street musician. He had also never heard Jae-ho speak to someone outside a professional context with that specific quality in his voice, not the authority, not the assessment, not the particular controlled distance that Jae-ho used with everyone including, Youngjun had noticed with some concern over 7 years, himself. Something else. Something that sounded, if Youngjun was being precise about it, like a man who had just heard something he recognized without being able to place where he knew it from. In the car, Jae-ho was looking out the window at the rain-wet streets of Gangnam with the expression he wore when he was processing something he had not yet organized into a decision. "You stood in the rain for 11 minutes, Youngjun said. "I'm aware. Your shoulder is wet. Also aware." Youngjun waited. "Then, she told you to move along." "She did. And you gave her your card." "I did. Can I ask?" "No," Jae-ho said. Still looking out the window. "Not yet." Youngjun nodded. Filed this entire incident in the category he had developed over 7 years for things that did not fit any existing category his employer had previously established. The category was small. This was only the 3rd item in it. Shin Jae-ho had not signed a new artist in 22 months. Not because there was a shortage of talent. Shin Entertainment received 400 demo submissions a month and Youngjun reviewed every single one of them and passed perhaps 12 to Jae-ho per month and Jae-ho listened to all 12 with the specific thoroughness of a man who took his professional judgment seriously. He had simply not heard anything in 22 months that made him feel the thing that had made him build this company in the first place. He had told Yongjun this once, in the particular late-night honesty of men who had worked together long enough to occasionally say the true thing. He had said, "I built this company because music did something to me when I was young that nothing else did. And somewhere in the last 2 years I have been listening to everything with my head and not with whatever part of me that used to respond before my head got involved." Yongjun had said, "What would make it respond again?" Jae-ho had looked at him. "Something real. Something that does not know it is supposed to adjust itself for the room." He had not found it in 22 months of demos and showcases and industry events and curated performances in rooms designed to present talent at its most polished and most prepared. He had found it on a street corner in the rain. In a woman who had told him to move along and meant it completely. He looked at his phone. Looked at the time. Looked back out the window. "Make sure the 10 o'clock tomorrow is clear," he said. "It already is," Yongjun said. "I cleared it when you were still standing in the rain." Jae-ho looked at him. Yongjun kept his expression completely professional. 7 years, he said simply. Amara almost did not go. Not because she was not curious, she was deeply curious, the specific curiosity of a person who had been told no in enough different ways that a yes, even an ambiguous one, had a particular weight. But because she had learned, in the specific school of 24 years of being herself in rooms that had not been designed for her, to be careful about what she walked toward. She called her sister at 7 in the morning, which was 2 in the afternoon in Atlanta. "A man gave you his business card in the rain," her sister Kezia said. "A man stood in the rain for 11 minutes listening to me sing and then gave me his business card and said 10 o'clock. Okay, but is he fine?" Kezia. "I'm asking a relevant question." "He is the chairman of one of the largest entertainment companies in Korea," Amara said. "Amara. I know. You are standing in the rain in Seoul with $8. $8.50. And the chairman of a major entertainment company gave you his personal card. His business card. Same thing at that level," Kezia said. "Go. What is the worst that happens? I walk into a meeting unprepared and leave without what I actually need, which is money, not a music deal. Can it not be both?" Amara looked at the card on her kitchen table. At the clean design, the specific weight of the paper, the name printed without title on the front. Just Shin Jae-ho. Like the name was enough and he knew it. "Go," Kezia said. "And call me after. And send me a photo of the building." She went. The Shin Entertainment Building was in Gangnam, of course it was, and it communicated what it was from the street with the specific confidence of a building that did not need to announce itself because everyone who needed to know already knew. Glass and steel, clean lines, the kind of architecture that said we make things that last. The receptionist directed her to the 31st floor without asking her name, which meant she had been expected. Which meant that 10 o'clock had been real and prepared for and not a casual impulse. She filed this information. Added it to the 11 minutes in the rain and the wet shoulder and the card placed carefully rather than handed. The 31st floor was quieter than she expected. Yongjun met her at the elevator. She recognized him as the assistant from the night before, and led her down a corridor that had original artwork on the walls, not prints, and brought her to a room that was not a boardroom. It was a listening room. She understood this immediately. The acoustic panels, the specific arrangement of seating, the monitor speakers positioned with the precision of someone who knew exactly what they were doing. A room built for the serious purpose of hearing things correctly. Jae-ho was standing at the window when she entered. He turned. In daylight he was, she processed this quickly and moved on, a man whose face had been lived in enough to be interesting, with the specific quality of someone who had made a great many decisions and had stopped flinching at the weight of them, and who was looking at her now with the same complete attention as the night before but without the rain and the distance, which made it considerably more direct. "You came," he said. "You said 10 o'clock, she said. "I keep appointments." Something shifted in his expression. "Sit, please." She sat. Looked at the room. Looked back at him. "You built this room to listen in." "Yes. Not to impress people. No, he said. Impressing people is what the lobby is for. He sat across from her. This room is for hearing things correctly. She looked at him for a moment. What did you hear last night? He was quiet for 3 seconds, not the hesitation of someone uncertain, but the pause of someone choosing precision over speed. Something that did not know it was being heard, he said. Which is the only kind of thing worth hearing. The room was very still. I have not signed a new artist in 22 months, he said. Not because I stopped looking. Because I stopped finding the thing that made me build all of this in the first place. He looked at her directly. Last night I found it on a street corner in the rain. Amara held his gaze. Felt the weight of the statement. Felt also the specific alertness of a woman who had been in rooms before where someone had wanted something from her voice and had wanted to own the thing they wanted, not honor it. What exactly are you offering, she said. A contract, he said. Full creative control retained by you. Shin Entertainment handles distribution, production resources, marketing. Revenue split 60-40 in your favor. He paused. I want to hear what you make when nobody is adjusting you for the room. She was quiet. I know what you are thinking, he said. Do you? You are thinking that this sounds like what you were promised before and that the difference between a promise and a contract is the fine print and that you have been in this room before with different furniture. She looked at him. Close, she said. I was also thinking that a man who stands in the rain for 11 minutes to listen to a song and then offers 60-40 on the first meeting either has very good instincts or wants something he is not saying yet. Jae-ho looked at her for a long moment. And then, without architecture, without the controlled distance she had watched him wear since she walked in, he smiled. Brief. Real. The smile of a man who had not been answered like this in a very long time and had found, in the answering, something that confirmed rather than complicated his decision. Both, he said honestly. My instincts are good. And what I want that I have not said yet is to know how you ended up singing in the rain in Gangnam with $3 and a permit. She looked at him. At the room built for hearing things correctly. At the man who had stood in the rain without fixing his wet shoulder because moving would have meant stopping listening. She told him. Not everything, not yet, not in a first meeting, not to a man she had known for 14 hours and 11 minutes. But enough. Her mother's bills. The contract she had turned down. The ANR man who had said adjusted. The 6 months of calculation that had ended with a one-way ticket to Seoul and a language she had learned in 4 months because if she was going to be somewhere new she was going to be there properly. He listened. Not with the performed listening of someone waiting for their turn to speak. With the complete attention of someone for whom listening was not passive, it was the most active thing he did. When she finished he was quiet for a moment. The contract you turned down, he said. The one that wanted to adjust you. Yes. What did they want to round off? She looked at him. The edges, she said. The parts that were too much. Too direct. Too real. Too, she paused, finding the word, unmanaged. Those are the only parts worth keeping, he said. The room was very quiet. I know, she said. That is why I turned it down. He looked at her with the expression she was beginning to understand was simply how he was, a man who processed fully and showed the result of the processing rather than the processing itself. The contract I am offering, he said carefully, does not require you to manage yourself. It requires the opposite. T. I am aware that is an unusual thing to be offered and I am aware you have reason to be careful about unusual things. The fine print will confirm what I have said. Yongjun will send it to you today. Read everything. Ask every question. Take the time you need. She nodded. Stood. Extended her hand. I will read it today. He stood. Shook her hand. One more thing, he said. She waited. The song you were singing last night. The original. Yes. What is it called? She looked at him. Beautiful and indifferent, she said. It is about being somewhere that does not notice you. He held her gaze. Seoul noticed you, he said quietly. It just took 11 minutes. She left the building at 11:43. Stood on the gangnam pavement in the morning sun, no rain today, the city clean and bright and going about its business with complete indifference. Except it did not feel indifferent anymore. She called Kezia. How was it? Kezia said immediately. He offered 60/40, Amara said. Creative control. Full resources. Fine print incoming. Kezia screamed. Amara held the phone away from her ear and smiled at the Seoul skyline. And his face, Kezia said when she had recovered. Kezia. Amara. She looked up at the Shin Entertainment Building. At the 31st floor where a man was probably already back at his desk doing whatever chairmen did when they were not standing in the rain listening to things that did not know they were being heard. His face is fine, she said. Kezia made a sound of pure satisfaction. I knew it, she said. I knew it from the rain. Amara smiled. Put the phone in her pocket. Started walking toward the subway. Her gift had found the right person. She had just kept showing up. Your gift will find the right person at the right time. You just have to keep showing up, even when it is raining, even when it is $3.20, even when the city feels too big and too indifferent to notice one voice. It noticed. It always notices the real ones. Drop a heart if Amara standing in the rain and telling the most powerful man in Korean music to move along, or drop something in the case is already the energy you needed today. Like this video, subscribe to Afro-Korean Story Vault, share it with someone who needs to hear this story, and tell me honestly in the comments, have you ever done something just to survive and it turned out to be exactly what you were meant to do? Because Amara had $3 and a song. That was enough. See you in the next one.